after astonishing testimony about alleged political interference this week from Canada's former Attorney General. The Prime Minister and his cabinet are sticking to message: jobs, jobs, jobs.
Canadians expect their government to look for ways to protect jobs, to grow the economy, and that's exactly what we've done every step of the way.
The role of my staff is to, with her team and with all teams, to talk about the importance of jobs.
And we on this side will fight for Canadian jobs, and perhaps at the Conservatives.
So at the heart of this controversy is Quebec-based SNC-Lavalin, one of the world's largest engineering firms, employing more than 9,000 people here in Canada. BNN Bloomberg's John Ehrlichman is here with a closer look at this economic powerhouse. John, Jody Wilson-Raybould said the Prime Minister expressed concerns that SNC-Lavalin said it would move its headquarters out of Montreal. But there are reports that one of the conditions of a loan they received for $1.5 billion said that the Quebec's pension fund manager in 2017 was that the head office had to remain in Montreal. So being in Bloomberg, you've been looking into that. What can you tell us?
Yeah, and that pension fund, a large shareholder in SNC. So it's all connected. Nobody's talking. That's the problem, Anne-Marie. We have point blank asked the company whether or not there was this threat that they would move those jobs out of Montreal. And just as the Prime Minister has dodged that question, the company is not commenting. The biggest part of the story to look at, I think, is the European operations, because they have a new headquarters in London. They have a large employee base there. So for any company thinking about its options, I suppose you could move to London, relocate your office there. But we still don't even have too much clarity on those 9,000 jobs, in the sense that, yes, 9,000 jobs leaving, that would be a big problem for Canada. But if you move your headquarters, do you fire 9,000 Canadian workers, hire 9,000 workers somewhere else? How many head office jobs move? We know businesses make all sorts of decisions, and we're just not getting enough clarity exactly on what was said behind the scenes.
So we mentioned 9,000 Canadian jobs.
Yeah.
Those are mainly in Quebec, scattered around, but mostly in Quebec. What would the economic impact be on that province and on the country if they did pull out?
I think it would be a dramatic economic impact, but I go back to, can you, as a business that is ultimately about making money, make a move like that when this is an important market for SNC? Let's be clear that even though there are these uncertain future the prosecution is an uncertain story for SNC.
Yeah.
They're still going to be bidding on contracts in Canada until they are told that they technically can't, if they're ever at that point, which means they're going to need a sizable workforce in Canada. I think it's also worth highlighting that we know they have a sizable workforce in Saudi Arabia, and they were quite vocal their displeasure about the Canadian government speaking out about policies in Saudi Arabia. Interesting to me that that was all unfolding in August, and we now have this timeline from Jody Wilson-Raybould, which starts in September with the pressure she felt from members of Prime Minister Trudeau's team.
More questions there also around the timeline, and also taking a look away from jobs and making a look at some of the other countries that could be impacted. Really quickly, if those contracts were not to be given to SNC-Lavalin, if the ban comes in and they're not allowed to bid for another 10 years, what does that mean? Could they not just hire another engineering firm?
Absolutely. There are other firms that have specialty and could fill that gap here in Canada. And the company certainly is growing outside Canada, so they'll be equally exploring some of those other options around the world.
John Ehrlichman, good to have you with us
Thanks,
today.
Emily.
Thanks so much. And BNN Bloomberg, of course, following this angle of the story.